Coming to you from the Windy City. Welcome to Let's Talk Shop, a podcast about all things cloud and enterprise tech. Listen to insights and guest interviews with IT thought leaders and professionals. Now, here's your host, Elias Khnaser.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Let's Talk Shop. Today, I truly have a special guest. This is someone that I've known for many, many years, one of the top executives in the industry as far as I'm concerned. Rob Zelinka is the CIO for Jack Henry. I've known him for many, many years, and it is my great pleasure to welcome him on the podcast today. Rob, it's great to have you.
Oh, it's great to see you again. It seems like just yesterday where we were doing great things, and to be able to do great things together again is really exciting.
I'm very excited also to have you. I'm very excited for our audience to also hear what you're doing, what Jack Henry is doing, and I'm super excited myself to learn a little bit. That being said, you're the CIO at Jack Henry. Tell me a little bit about the company. What does Jack Henry do?
Yeah, so Jack Henry is a financial services provider, essentially a fintech. When I joined Jack Henry, there were two types of fintech. There was the fintechs with an emphasis on fin, and there was a fintech with the emphasis on tech. Now, I would submit to you back 5 years ago, we were the fintech with the emphasis on fin. But what we're quickly evolving to, and COVID was certainly one of those things that drove us to gain speed and momentum. But it wasn't really, we were going to drive there anyway, but we were trying to drive more towards going from being a fintech with an emphasis on the fin to a fintech with an emphasis on the tech. And the reason for that is because the pandemic really shifted the way we conduct business with one another. So our Chief Digital and Technology Officer, Ben Metz, has a fantastic story. It really resonates. And we refer to it as Ben's grandmother's story. And ultimately, he talks about how his grandmother conducts business at a bank, which is very traditional in many regards. A human being walks into a building, speaks to another human being. And it could be about something monumental, like getting a second loan for a car for a team that's starting to drive, or maybe to fund a wedding for your daughter. On the very flip side of that, we have our kids, the newest generation that's entering the workforce. They conduct almost every piece of their business on their cell phone. And so what's really compelling is when Ben puts a slide up there and it shows his grandmother, who had back in the 70s a checking account, a savings account, and maybe a Sears charge card. And then you look at someone today who has 30 or so payment vehicles. They conduct business with a checking account, a savings account, American Express card, a corporate card if they're working for a company. They might pay with Zelle, Venmo, PayPal, notwithstanding all of the other payment vehicles. And so it's a very complex ecosystem right now. And here's the main part about it. The systems that were built 20, 30 years ago were not built for the internet because there wasn't an internet. So we're basically using them as the rails, so to speak, to drive outcomes in a world that they weren't built for. And that's what's driving us to really capitalize on technology to drive that user experience for our customers forward.
I love it. I mean, you're just describing a fantastic digital transformation for Jack Henry. I love that you said Sears card, by the way. I see that the Chicago is still in you. You can't take the Chicago out.
No, it's always going to be home. And I go back for Portillo's hot dogs and Lou Malnati's.
I also loved you touched on a couple of things that I think are spot on. So basically, moving from the fin to the tech, I think you're describing making business and technology indistinguishable, basically. So I think that's a great story. I love that you used ecosystems because, again, today it's about connecting to all of these ecosystems. Would you agree that to a large degree your ecosystem is becoming your infrastructure?
Yeah, without a doubt. At the end of the day, I would tell you there's every company in this world, no matter what type of business they're in, is a data company and a technology company. There are two stages I see for the most part. The one stage is those that have full awareness that they're a data company and a technology company, and then everyone else who thinks, well, I sell automobiles. I'm not a data company. I'm not a technology company. I just sell cars. Well, how do you know what cars sell? How do you know what cars to sell to who? There isn't a day that goes by that you see a really ugly car on the road and you ask, who buys those cars? And I promise you someone's buying them because these big, massive automakers know exactly who to market to and how to market to them. We're no different in our industry. Banking and credit unions, there's a lot of things occurring in our marketplace. So, for example, where our sweet spot was many years ago was in what we call the community banking space. And specifically, the company was built by two gentlemen who had a dream and a desire to serve their communities. It's a wonderful story. And so they felt that if you take care of your community will take care of you. And foundationally, that's still how we're built today as a company. We're very keenly connected to our communities. We empower our employees to invest in their communities. So you mentioned Chicago. Chicago's always going to be my home. And we do great things in Chicago with the community. I live in Houston now. We have an office in Houston. We do great things in Houston. I mentioned our corporate headquarters in Monette, Missouri, a very small farming community in the heart of the Midwest, doing great things with that community. That is core to what we do as a company, as humans. However, what's happening is smaller community banks and credit unions are merging or being acquired by larger community banks to form regional banks. Well, you have to scale to support that volume, the transaction levels, the feature functionality. You know, I'm from Chicago originally, as you pointed out. I bank at a big bank. They develop all of their own tech. Community banks don't necessarily have the resources to invest in a complete IT team that's going to do everything developmental for the products. That's where Jack Henry comes in. We're their business partner, their strategic partner, to help them connect with their customer base, their community.
That's fantastic. So not only are you supporting your customers, but you're also being a provider to others as well. A tech provider, essentially.
No doubt. We are essentially a service provider. So we have a couple different ways we serve our customers and ultimately the communities. One is in the traditional sense where we will sell you back-end software technologies to allow you to run your financial institution. We also deliver that service in what I would consider a hosted model or a subscription type model where all of the infrastructure, all of the technology resides in one of the Jack Henry owned and operated data centers. And you as a small community bank or credit union consume the back-end services that runs that financial institution for your customers from us.
That's interesting. So that's a B2B use case right there. Is there a B2C? Do you interact directly with the consumer as well?
No, not really. So,
Okay.
you know, the customers that we serve are financial institutions. And then, of course, we connect with them to support their customer base, their communities, as I alluded to. At the end of the day, though, we are extensions of their business.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, you may bank at a small community bank that Jack Henry supports. So let's say on the back of your debit card, you ended up losing your debit card, or no longer the stripe doesn't work or the chip doesn't work. You call an 800 number on the back of that card, there's a large possibility that you're calling a Jack Henry call center.
Got it.
And you're talking to a Jack Henry employee, but you don't know that. But here's why it's important. We are servicing one of our customers at that moment in time. And so we have to basically present ourselves as being part of that financial institution, part of their culture, treating their customers in the same way they want their customers to be treated. as you may know, that's really challenging. When you partner with someone, you have to be really sure that they share your vision, your culture, your values. And when they don't, it puts your business at risk potentially.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So you mentioned earlier also that, COVID accelerated a lot of these initiatives that you were working on. Now that we're kind of, hopefully COVID is in the rear view mirror, hopefully. So in the post-pandemic, where are you focusing? Is it cloud? Is it the edge? Is it all of the above? What are the priorities for 22 and potentially 23?
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that question. So we have been really pushing our tech modernization strategy to our customers, to our investment community, to our communities as a whole. That's around giving a plan, a tech plan on how we are going to go about transforming, revitalizing, if you will, how we support a modern day financial services institution. At the same time, we also don't want to abandon those customers that are more on the traditional or legacy approach. And they're still trying to figure out which path they want to go in their tech modernization strategy. So we're, in as much as you can never be everything to everyone, we are not leaving some of those customers behind. We've been very clear, but we also want to be clear that we are heavily focused in a tech modernization strategy that gives our customers speed to react to market conditions and agility to respond to market conditions. And let me give you an example of how that worked. So you've been around the software realm for decades. You know how long it takes to develop a product and get it to the street. What if I was to tell you that we were able to deliver a product to the street in less than 72 hours?
I would be intrigued. Please go on.
Sure. So let me share what happened. Back when the pandemic hit and many of our parts of our country went into a lockdown posture where we had asked people essentially to maintain a shelter-in-place posture, that adversely affected thousands, hundreds of thousands, really, of businesses across the country and world. So if you were a small business owner, a restaurant owner, for instance, without customers coming in to dine, you had no way to sustain your business and, importantly, pay your employees. And so there was what was called a payroll protection program that was launched, and that was designed to support small business owners in their ability to keep their employees paid. Well, the banks and credit unions needed a way to release those funds to their customers, to those small business owners and operators. Jack Henry, I'm proud to say, one of the proudest moments of my tenure here, we knew we had a short runway to develop a platform that would help those customers to facilitate those loans. And we put the best of our people together. We have exceptional people. And when you put exceptional people together, they do exceptional things. And this was no exception. We delivered that product in less than 72 hours to the street, to the customer, and we facilitated those loans. That's pretty profound. Those people that were waiters and waitresses and cooks and chefs, restaurant managers, they needed that paycheck to sustain their livelihood so they could pay their bills. Without Jack Henry at that moment in time, being there at that, what we call moment of need, the customer may not have been able to get access to those funds.
That's fascinating. And being the fact that my dad owns a restaurant, I'm going to say thank you, because I'm sure he's taken, he was able to leverage this also in some way, shape, or form. But so what Jack Henry did then, was it the integration that you had to do with, like, I guess the SBA or whoever was initiating that? Was it that integration that was missing, or was it the application process that the team contributed to?
Great question. So it's a little bit of everything. So, we would love an ecosystem where the customer only consumes Jack Henry products or services. But here's the reality. There's so many competing products out there, and oftentimes our customers take a best of breed approach, or in their mind, a best of breed approach, which means at times they're using technology that is not built by Jack Henry or supported by Jack Henry. And so we, under the auspice of our CTO, have what we call an openness strategy. And we really firmly believe that we are the most open of any fintech provider, especially the larger ones that we compete with, where we basically allow access to our APIs. In fact, we not only allow it, we encourage it, because we realize that there are hundreds of fantastic platforms and products, but they need to integrate with other platforms and products. And while it would be nice, as I said, to be able to lock your customers into a single ecosystem, the reality is that's probably not feasible, especially in today's world.
That's fantastic. Again, we go back to, the ability to connect to all of these ecosystems collectively. They're becoming the infrastructure. Now, let me ask you something, Rob, and be honest with me. Now that the team delivered in 72 hours, has that been the bar that you've set for them for everything else moving forward?
Yeah, the short answer is no. The company is built on culture, really, and that cannot be understated. We have a spectacular culture, and I know a lot of companies say the same thing, but we have three things that we live by. The first is to always do the right thing. Now, that means different things to different people, but foundationally, we all come to work every day with a desire to do the right thing for ourselves, our company, our customer. The next thing we do is along the way of the line is we not only do the right thing, but we do whatever it takes. And what that means is we go the extra mile. If that means working a night or a weekend or two, we do it. And we do it in a manner that is selfless. We just expect that incredible things happen from incredible people, but it requires incredible commitment and sometimes some incredible courage. The last thing we do is we have fun. You've got to have fun along the way. You got to love what you're doing. Right. And if you don't love what you're doing, go find something else to do. That's the motto that I bring, that I share with my team and my peers. But we all are similarly programmed in that regard. And so, as you might imagine, though, as the world shifts and changes and evolves, and there's different pressures, it requires agility. And at this point, now more than ever, it requires speed, because here's the reality we face right now as humans in this world. The pace of change has never been faster than it is today at this moment in time. It will not be slower than it is today either, meaning tomorrow it's going to be even faster. And then a month from now, even faster. A year from now, even faster. And so when I sat in a strategy meeting with some of my peers, we talked about the need for speed, so to speak, the need for agility, and how do we get it, harness it, and execute. That's the key, because a lot of times you end up getting in your own way. There's no shortage of great ideas, but the reality is you can't keep all those plates spinning. You can only limit the number of plates to what you're capable of. So to your point, while our people delivered a magical solution, and we were really proud of it, the reality is we have to make sure that our people are energized and recharged, and that they're not feeling burned out. Shortly after that period, we went through the period that almost all companies went through, the Great Resignation. We had people leaving jobs, and it was shocking to us. Why were they leaving? How could they leave? How are they supporting and sustaining their families? From Great Resignation, we moved into great regret. So there wasn't a day or two that would go by where someone that left Jack Henry for a larger company, a well-known company, they were excited to go, and suddenly 6 months later, they want to come back. Yeah. And I was really curious, what's prompting you to want to come back? Well, Rob, here's the deal. They sold me on an opportunity where I could be full-time remote, and that was exciting to me. And oh, by the way, to be able to work for this big tech company, that was a big deal. Okay, so what happened? Well, they told me I need to come into an office 3 days a week now. Okay, so you can't do it? Well, I live in this part of the country, and the nearest office is 200 miles away. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, are they willing to relocate you? Yes, they are. But you might remember my dad is terminally ill, and I'm a caregiver for him, and I can't do it. Oh, okay. Well, just tell them that. They'll understand. Yeah, Rob, they didn't understand.
They didn't understand.
So my option is to either move, resign, or drive 3 days a week. And I said, oh yeah, that's not great. Yeah, Rob, I really miss Jack Henry. And I said, well, let's talk. What can we do? And, sometimes they come back. In fact, just recently I learned of someone that we really, sometimes anytime someone leaves your company, it hurts. There's impact. But sometimes there's profound impact. Like it feels like the wind is taken out of your sails. And in this one instance, the person did come back, and it was as if, it was a gift again, another chance, a rebirth, if you will. So that's just the kind of place Jack Henry is.
I was going to ask you about, your ability to hire and find talent, but you kind of already covered this. So I want to pivot a little bit back to your priorities. So I know that you're doing a lot of work with Multicloud. Can you share what you guys are doing? And was Multicloud a strategic decision, or did it happen kind of ad hoc or by accident?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot has changed in the 5 years I've been with Jack Henry. So when I joined Jack Henry, we were, for the most part, in our own data centers. So data centers we either owned ourselves and operated, or in data centers that we leased space, but nonetheless, we were the single tenant there. So essentially, we were an owner-operator of that location. And through some acquisitions, we acquired some companies that were really more native cloud or doing business in the cloud. And that was a huge shift for us. And I remember vividly, there was a lot of stress between various parts of Jack Henry's leadership. So for example, my role as CIO, I was not aligned necessarily with some of the other leaders, specifically my peer on the security side, who was our chief information security officer at the time. The thought process was there was too much unknown on a level of risk that was not attainable for us to accept in the financial services realm. And so if you think about 5 years ago, seems like a long time. And for some it is, but for some it isn't. 5 years ago, not a lot of financial services was being contracted in the cloud. Now, as hyperscale providers have matured, and there's an investment in security, and there's focus around security, I think now most banks and credit unions have come to the understanding that it's okay to move workloads to the cloud. And when you're seeing big banks doing it, community banks are also looking for an opportunity to gain speed and agility as well. And ultimately, if there's some cost considerations, if you can reduce your cost structure and improve your customer's experience, why not do it? We needed to start almost from the ground up, though, in terms of developing a governance model. So how do we safely and securely move to the cloud? How do we audit ourselves once we're in the cloud? Because while operating in the cloud and operating in a private data center has some similarities, there are also some nuances to it and differences. And so the approach that you take to manage and operate in a traditional data center is still slightly different than you do in the cloud. And the biggest thing that I think people make a mistake around is when you pay a Microsoft or a Amazon or a Google even to consume resources, infrastructure resources in their cloud, a lot of times people think, well, I can just wash my hands of it. Now it's their problem. Oh, absolutely not. It's still your problem.
That's right.
And you own it. And so when Azure has an outage, for instance, and let's face it, everyone has outages, even the bigger cloud providers.
That's why we have jobs.
Absolutely. But here's the point. When Azure has a load balancer outage that affects the delivery of services in North Central region, for instance, and you, for whatever reason, cannot move outside of a given geo box, if you will, because of compliance or regulatory, then you're going to have to tough it out or do a transition to another cloud or transition back to your own data center. All that to say, the message to our customer, a bank or a credit union, isn't to say, yeah, sorry, your system's down. Microsoft Azure was down, and that's why. They understand it, but they don't care, nor should they. They're looking at us, Jack Henry, to say, hey, what are you doing
Figure it out
to provide enterprise resilience?
Yeah. So they're looking to you to basically say, Great, they're out. What are you doing about it? What are you doing for me? So you're in two clouds or three?
We're actually in three of the major clouds, and that's purposeful. Initially, I would say a majority of our workloads were in one of the three clouds, but we have since pivoted from that, and a lot of it has to do with M&A. So just recently, we announced our intention to acquire a company called Payrails, which is going to be a wonderful addition to our product portfolio, but specifically to our culture. When we go and acquire a company, the first thing we ask ourselves, is this company a culture fit to Jack Henry? And if the answer is anything but yes,
no go.
We just move on, right? Because the hardest thing to change is a culture. And we're just not willing to put our culture at risk. That said, that company that we're acquiring is operating in one of the three major clouds. And by virtue of that, we're going to continue to support them in that cloud because, as you know, moving from one cloud to another is not a simple lift and shift exercise. It is fraught with peril and risk every step of the way, which requires knowledge on both ends. So let's say, for instance, you were going to migrate a workload from Microsoft Azure's cloud to, let's say, Amazon's cloud. You have to have people that know both sides of the equation.
That's right. That's right. And that's I love everything that you said. The M&A use case is one that I see a lot. Let me ask you maybe a follow-up question to that. So you're in three of these cloud providers. Okay, you're acquiring a company that's in one of them. Great. For new workloads, how are you distributing between these three clouds? Is there a criteria? Is it a best fit? Are you guys doing an assessment? How are you deciding where do you move an application to?
Yeah, so for new workloads, let's focus there. We are leaning more heavily to two of the three major cloud providers, with a heavier emphasis on one of the cloud providers. And I'll tell you what's leading us to the one cloud provider over the other.
Okay.
Their technology, their commitment to Jack Henry at a strategic level. So, what's really important to us is the relationship we have, not just with our customers, but our partners. They are extensions of Jack Henry. And so to that end, we really need to know that our cloud or hyperscale provider shares our same vision, shares our same value system, has passion for the community just like us. So that was the first thing that was a differentiator for us. The second is the technology stack that cloud provider has over their competitors.
I think I can guess which cloud provider that is, but I'm not going to say.
It's compelling. Okay. And then the third thing, of course, is if they're a good culture fit with you and they have what you believe is better technology and they can deliver it in a less costly way, it's compelling for you to consider moving those workloads. However, we also have to consider that we have workloads running in different clouds.
Sure.
And that gives us scale. It gives us business agility. So for example, if one of those major cloud providers has a significant issue that's taken part of their cloud offline, and yes, it happens in today's world, you need to be able to pivot. And maybe that pivot means you move from Amazon to Microsoft, or you move from Microsoft to Google. But you have to have that flexibility to be able to do that, because outages in today's world are impactful. And banks are considered almost like a utility. When you go to the ATM, whether it's the walk-up one or the one in your car, you expect you will get money out of it when you need it, and you expect that it'll take your money when you put it into it. And when it does not work, it's almost as impactful as when you go into a bathroom and there's no running water. You start to ask, what's going on here? Yeah. That's how ubiquitous uptime and availability has become in today's modern world.
Yeah. Outside of multi-cloud, is there any special project, anything in particular that you're excited about that you guys are working on? Anything with analytics, maybe? I would love to know if there's anything specific to fintech that, if you're able to share with us anything there.
Well, I'm really passionate and excited about our tech modernization strategy that I alluded to earlier. For the primary reason that it allows us to continue to make a difference in our communities with our customers in ways that they need to move forward and transform the traditional banking or credit union experience. There's such a tremendous opportunity right now for us to pave the way for the next generation of consumer. Also, what I'm very passionate about is how we're approaching our employee base. You talked about recruiting and retaining. Those are really challenging things. This company is built on people, first and foremost, people. And no matter how much we look to automate with artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotic process automation, those are all fantastic tools, but they really shouldn't be designed to remove a human being when you need empathy. They should be used to remove humans in laborious tasks where humans wear down and are susceptible to error. When you, for instance, if you lose your wallet, chances are your anxiety level goes up a notch or two. And when you call a financial institution to say, I've lost my wallet and my credit card, my debit card is missing, and I need you to turn it off. And I need another one. And preferably I need one as soon as possible. You want to know that there's a human on the other end that understands, that cares, and is there to help. Instead, we're in a world where we're trying to remove the humans. And so chatbots are neat and cute. I'll give you an example. One of the big banks has a chatbot, and the chatbot's name is Erica. Okay. And I like to find the limitations of technology. So I'm on the website for the big bank and I'm chatting with Erica. And I ask a simple question and she doesn't give me the answer I want. And so I said to Erica, thanks, but this was completely useless. You didn't help me at all. And she responds to say, okay, have a nice day. And so it's funny in a way, but it's not funny because if I really needed Erica to direct me to a human that could solve my problem at that moment in time, I was let down by Erica. Yeah. So all that to say, that technology is great and wonderful when it works, but when it doesn't work, boy, is it frustrating.
It's frustrating. Yeah. Your commitment and your passion to your people is very apparent. Your passion for the industry and for technology is very apparent. You're still the same Rob, still a strong leader. I think the team is very, very lucky to have you. Thank you so much for sharing all of these insights. I would love to have you again, maybe early in 2023, as you maybe have completed the planning for 2023 to see kind of where you guys are going. What are the other priorities? What are you guys going to focus on? I think that would be fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us, for spending this time with me. And we're going to have you soon, right? I'm going to hear today that we're going to have you again on the show.
I'll be on again when you'll have me. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's great to see you and join you again.
You too. Thank you so much.